All right, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, since there are no fights this week, I have been trying to find stories and things like that to cover. I think that because there's nothing to talk about, I want to hold the media accountable for something, okay? Because there was a story that should have been, in my opinion, put everywhere over the weekend that wasn't. There were a few organizations that posted about it, but a lot of the big mainstream MMA media did not. And I like to hold them accountable from time to time because I think that they are shady and scummy, and I think that they have a extreme political bias, and I don't appreciate their coverage of certain events. Okay, so we're going to talk about it. But before we do, please, if you are new here, please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it, dude. We are over the 500 mark, which means we are over halfway to being able to apply for monetization. Okay, get here before it was cool, right? So you can be one of those annoying hipster peoples who liked a band before they got popular and then gets angry when they do, okay? So just do that. You'll forget all about it anyways once you hit the subscribe button. It's not a big deal. So anyways, now I saw two places post about this, okay? And now I don't use Twitter, so perhaps there were other ones that posted on Twitter about this, but I could not find any of the major MMA organizations posting, MMA media organizations, pardon me, posting about this on Instagram at all. There was a tweet put out from MMA Orbit, and then shout out to MMA Uncensored. They have almost 1 million followers, so they are, in fact, a pretty big MMA media page. They reposted this tweet. So Themba Gorimbo announced in his post-fight presser that family members and friends turned their back on him after he lost his UFC debut. Okay. Themba Gorimbo, for context, okay, if you couldn't tell, he's a black man, okay, African immigrant from Zimbabwe. So, just for context, his training partner Colby Covington would bring him food to eat at MMA Masters as Gorimbo was struggling financially. Okay. So to me, this would have been a good story, especially in a slow news week when we don't have any fights to talk about, right? Like usually at this time we'd be seeing media day, we'd be seeing scrums, we'd be seeing shit like this, but we don't have any fights this week. This is a very feel-good story, right? Something that they could have written about, even if they wanted to come at it from the angle of, well, okay, so I know why they haven't, right? The vast majority of MMA media organizations have at some point or another called Colby Covington a racist, or at the very least have said that he has said racist remarks. And I'm going to put some of those up on the screen for you, but I want to read some of them because I find them to be absolutely ridiculous. And I do think that this is why they are not talking about this situation, right? MMA Junkie did a post regarding Themba Gorimbo where they were talking about his bank balance before this last performance on Saturday night and how his UFC paycheck and the bonus would be absolutely life-changing for him because he had something like $7 in his bank account. They said nothing about the Colby Covington situation, though, which I find to be pretty disingenuous. So first, we had a headline here that I'm going to put up. A number of black UFC fighters have spoken out against Colby Covington after he made racist comments to Nigerian star Kamaru Usman. So they're just flat out calling him racist remarks. I took some screenshots from this, okay, a number of, I'll put up the, the headline, but let's look at, so, UFC fighters Israel Adesanya, Sijara Eubanks, and Hakeem Dawodu, which, by the way, fuck you, Hakeem Dawodu, he's Canadian, fuck that guy, okay, and I'll tell you why in a minute, have all spoken out against Colby Covington after he made racist remarks towards a number of black athletes on Sunday. Covington asked Nigerian-born Kamaru Usman if he uses smoke signals to communicate with his little tribe. Okay, that's not how he said it. They broke it up and added words. They only quoted 4 words out of that entire sentence there, by the way, so we'll get to that. He also accused Tyron Woodley of standing up for lifelong criminals in his support for the BLM movement. Also disingenuous, and we'll go over why. Okay, the UFC has not yet punished Covington for these remarks, so they wanted Colby Covington to get punished for expressing his political beliefs. Okay, that is absolutely anti-free speech. These people are used to these massive athletic organizations like the NBA and the NHL and all this shit finding guys for things that they have said, which is absolutely pathetic that they would even make that a thing. Okay, but this guy Covington has directly insulted my culture, my brother, and many other cultures, and no one says anything, said Israel Adesanya, as if it isn't fucking blasted all over every fucking MMA media page ever when it happened, okay? What do you mean nobody said anything, you fucking idiot? Okay, fucking, this is why I hate this guy, honestly. Cool picture, favorite trilogy of all time, or favorite fucking rivalry of all time. I fucking hate him, and this is why. These guys are like race hustlers. It's fucking so cringe, and it's so disingenuous, and you used a racial slur against another African man, okay? And it was literally barely covered by the media whatsoever. There was barely anybody who said anything about it. And as a matter of fact, most of the people that were saying something about it in mainstream MMA media were fucking defending you. So fuck you, Israel Adesanya, okay? Number one. And then he says, oh, never mind. I have to go to the next picture. Covington made the comments during an interview with Usman after beating Tyron Woodley at UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas on Sunday. In his post-fight press conference, the American, an avid supporter of President Donald Trump, like as if they have to add that, dude, as if another fighter, as if some Democrat or progressive fighter, they would ever write an avid supporter of President Joe Biden, as if this is some controversial opinion. Half the fucking country voted for that man, okay? This isn't some insane, fringe, controversial opinion that you liked your last president. I just fucking don't understand it, dude. There's 30% of people that like this cunt, okay? My bullshit prime minister. So, get fucked. Also referred to Woodley as a communist, a Marxist, and someone standing up for lifelong criminals. These are, okay, if you understand what he's saying, you will know that these are not racist. So, Marxism is like all these guys that are that agree with like critical theory of some form or another, whether it's gender or race, like CRT, all this shit. Most of them are Marxists, and all of the fucking critical theory, they all want communism. That's like, if you know what he's talking about, you know what he's talking about, and you know that he's not being racist, okay? Also, Woodley wore a BLM, Black Lives Matter shirt all week in the lead up before the fight. So they're trying to say that they used to do this a lot, and it's funny because nobody really defends BLM anymore, but they always used to conflate the two. If somebody were to say something bad about the organization, everybody would make it sound like he said something about the movement, right? They literally say that at some point in here. The organization has been proven to be essentially criminal, or at the very least, completely disingenuous and dishonest. And what they did with all the money that they raised and all that shit, they are not good people, okay? Just because their name is what it is doesn't mean they are good people. They were horrible. And he goes on to say another thing, which I'll cover in a second. Let's see. The UFC has not punished Covington for his comments and has a long history of allowing athletes to speak freely. This has led to a number of stars making offensive and sometimes downright racist comments. Yes, like Israel Adesanya. It just shows you the landscape of the media, what it is right now. Adesanya, who was also born in Nigeria, said, according to ESPN, I made a joke about dropping Yoel Romero like the Twin Towers, and everyone lost their mind. Even if I said it was a joke, and it was pretty funny, which it wasn't, but people took it as I was being offensive and like digging, but I was making a joke. This guy Covington has directly insulted my culture, my brother, and many other cultures, and no one is saying anything, but it shows you a mirror. Yeah, okay, dude. Fuck off. That was a bad joke. And if I'm not mistaken, dude, were they in MSG that night when he fought Yoel Romero? I could be mistaken. I don't know where they were. I know it was right before the world shut down for like 2 years, but I don't remember where they were fighting. But yeah, dude, there's a lot of fucking Americans that are pretty sensitive about that subject, okay? And that was an event that transcends race, right? A lot of people died. It was a big fucking deal. I didn't really care that he made the joke, if I'm being brutally honest, but whatever, dude. Bantamweight Sajari Eubanks said, let's be real, first and foremost. It wasn't unfortunate. It was flat out racist. It was racist. It was disgusting. Shoot ya fucking mouth. She added, but to be fair, I think guys that talk like Mike Perry, who has publicly used the N-word, and Colby Covington, I think a lot of these things they say are racist and disgusting and should be reported as such. Instead of unfortunate or controversial, it's racist. Mike Perry's been given a pass by Tyron Woodley, so shut up. Okay? You got a problem with it, talk to Tyron Woodley. Okay? Featherweight Hakeem Dawodu said, and this one pisses me off. This motherfucker should not be claiming the same level of oppression as any African American that lives in the United States of America. Same with Israel Adesanya. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Your parents were wealthy. You are a multi-millionaire. If the world was truly extremely systemically racist, I don't think that they would allow that to happen, okay? But regardless, it's crazy that opponents like that are causing more and more divide among the people. That's how he gets down. But I'm not really with that, and I took offense to that for sure. Okay, you're from Canada, bro. My guy was born in fucking Calgary. Okay, he might walk out with the Jamaican flag. It's because one of his parents is Jamaican. I looked it up, all right? You're Canadian. That history doesn't really exist here, right? We're not like, and our fucking cuck prime minister literally got down on his fucking hands and knees to bow to that bullshit protest, even when it's not a fucking issue here. And when there was a protest regarding my body, my choice, right? You, the government, should not be able to tell me what I can and cannot put in my body. He fucking sicked his police on them, had people trampled by horses, invoked one of the most controversial fucking acts of all time, as if we were at war. Okay. Covington is playing a dangerous game with the MAGA character he has adopted during his recent ascent in popularity. How is he playing a dangerous game? By saying he supports their president. Okay? Like, I don't understand this framing. Whether he realizes it or not, when he steps into the octagon, it's a war of ideologies, as the 32-year-old's promotional tool of choice is one that consists of inflammatory rhetoric that echoes from the filthy, xenophobic corners of America. So he literally, whoever the fuck wrote this article, this cuck little bitch, says that if you voted for Donald Trump, this is essentially what he is saying, okay? I know that he did not word for word say this. We know what he means. If you voted for Donald Trump, you are xenophobic, you are racist. And it's problematic. Okay. Disgusting. Half your country, you fuck. You think half your country's evil? Or do you just think that some of that half doesn't want kids being given fucking puberty blockers or some shit? You know what I mean? There's a lot of one issue voters. And a lot of the times it's social issues also. Okay? And you, the Democratic Party, have allowed progressives to be way too loud and way too fucking annoying, even though they don't have a whole lot of power in your movement, and it has affected you. Because people view you as that. After dominating Tyron Woodley at UFC Fight Night with a 5th round TKO, Covington dipped into his bag of MAGA tricks to disparage the man he defeated. With a history of bad blood between the two, Covington opted to keep up the charade by not only attack Woodley, but also protest against police brutality that have taken the nation by storm, that were built on lies also. Okay, Tyron Woodley is standing up for lifelong criminals, quote, said Covington. Black Lives Matter is a complete sham. It's a joke. You are talking about people who are complete terrorists and criminals. These people who are not hardworking, blue-collar Americans, they are bad people. They are criminals. Again, Black Lives Matter. He's speaking about the organization. He is not speaking about the words Black Lives Matter. Okay? And if you know, you know. Okay? They had a list of demands that, and then based on their actions of burning down fucking cities essentially, or causing billions of dollars in property damage, okay, rioting all across America, saying that it would not stop until these demands were met, by definition, should have made them a domestic terrorist organization. If you look at the criteria for a domestic terrorist organization, they met that criteria. This is what he's talking about. He is not talking about anybody that supports that. He's talking about the organization itself, and it was a sham, and it is a joke, and it's been proven to be so since then. And a lot of them weren't hardworking because they're fucking communists, and they don't want people to work. They want the government. I was literally talking to my neighbor yesterday, who is native, who was ultra progressive according to him, and was talking about fucking how he thinks that the government should take private property away from people and use it to build public housing. And his mom, who is very successful, right, that allows him to be a lazy fuck that lives in a shed with no rent, right, in her backyard, owns 4 homes. And I asked him, should the government then take all of your mother's property? And they're native, keep in mind, so this I thought for sure the answer would have been different than what it was. Should the government take all of your mom's houses, demolish them, and put up apartments? And he said yes. Right. And then I also trapped him into he agrees with eugenics because he thinks that abortion should be okay if you've got a baby that's got an issue. And now I'm not even like a pro-lifer. But the argument he was making was for eugenics. He brought up non-functioning autism and Down syndrome. And he said because he wanted to make a better society. And I said, okay, well, you realize where that argument leads, because if you want to get rid of all the crime in your country, there's a certain population that you could argue that exact same thing for. And he didn't know what to say because these people don't think more than 2 steps ahead. This is what Colby Covington's talking about. These people are fucked. The people that created that organization that made tons and tons and tons of money, millions and millions, millions of dollars, who all claim to be Marxists and communists, all bought mansions, right? Didn't donate the money to black communities. You can go on YouTube and find there are plenty of people that have issues with the way that shit was handled. But regardless, dude, another guy tweets Andreas Hale, don't know who the fuck that guy is. So Colby isn't a racist, you say, and then posts a clip of him talking to fucking Usman. Part of the issue is the lack of diversity in MMA media. Fuck you. The MMA media has nothing to do with the UFC, so why are we acting like Colby Covington, who is an independent contractor that fights for the UFC, and we're talking about him getting punished and all this shit because of the way Dana White handles things? Why are we then talking about lack of diversity in the media? Which, by the way, there isn't. Like, there are tons of women. There are tons of people of color and shit like this. But I'll tell you what there isn't is diversity of thought. Because there's fucking 99% of the MMA media all agrees in their ideology. That's what diversity should count as. Diversity shouldn't be, oh, you've got a black guy, an Asian guy, a fucking... whatever. No white guys allowed, of course, because they're evil, but you know what I mean? You've got a woman, you've got the fucking all this shit. None of that is diversity if they all think the exact same way. And that's, the MMA media all thinks the exact same fucking way, and you can tell because they all report the same way on stories. There is never like one massive MMA media organization that has a completely different take than all the other ones. They're all the fucking same. The writing's just a little different, okay? And it's not usually very good anyways. Where the NBA and NFL have plenty of diversity with minorities and women rounding out coverage with a variety of viewpoints, MMA is still far behind in this regard because of the lack of perspective. The topic gets glossed over. Bullshit. First of all, I would imagine the NBA and the NFL have quotas to meet when it comes to their media. Also, Dana White doesn't hire the media. But I would imagine that they have quotas, that it's forced. Okay, and I would imagine that when they say variety of viewpoints, I don't think so. I think what you would have is a woman talking about how fucking what some guy said was sexist or fucking some shit like that, and they call that a different viewpoint. Like, this is bullshit, man. We know which way the media leans. It is what it is. They all lean left, in case you haven't fucking clued in, okay? This doesn't necessarily mean that MMA media endorses this behavior, but it does spell out that this type of coverage is outside of its depth. And when the UFC president advocates for Covington and is known for banning journalists who rub him the wrong way, who is going to risk their credentials challenging White and one of his favorite fighters on black issues in America? Does nobody fucking remember the issues that Dana White had with Colby Covington? That guy's a fucking idiot. They did not like each other. Dana White will do business with you even if he doesn't like you. He fucking hated Tito Ortiz. He kept Tito Ortiz around for a pretty long time, okay? He tried to keep Francis Ngannou around. Like, guys that he is perceived as not liking, he doesn't care if they make him money. And banning journalists who rub him the wrong way. There are plenty of journalists who have brought up bullshit fucking points like this that he has argued against, and they're not ever, like, not allowed back, okay? Ariel Helwani was banned because he broke a story that he wasn't supposed to break, that the UFC hadn't had the chance to announce yet. I'd be fucking irritated also. Okay, you know how much money they spend making like promotional trailers and shit like that for some fucking weasel to just go and tweet about it like in the middle of a fight? Like, get fucked, okay? God damn. This is all shit from around this time. This is all things that the media have said about Colby Covington, and it's probably the reason why they're not going to cover this story the way that they should. Dana White is asked whether the UFC will make a statement on Black Lives Matter. Yikes. A tweet or something, a quote with a link to whatever. Probably. Why are... That's bullying. That straight up is. Are you gonna fucking make a statement on this? Are you gonna do a little? Why should he? Why should he? Okay. Why should he? I don't understand. And why would you want somebody to make a statement that you essentially like coerce them into making? Wouldn't you want it to be genuine? Wouldn't you want to know if somebody genuinely, like, it's fucking so gross, dude. Considering that every other major sporting organization has issued some kind of statement in support of BLM, so you're basically saying like Dana White has to support this specific political movement even if he doesn't agree with you politically. But White could only muster up, I don't understand what you're asking. On behalf of the UFC speaks volumes about the promotion of why Covington felt comfortable doing what he has done. The UFC has a race problem that nobody affiliated with the organization wants to openly admit. Like the US president, it is pandering to an audience who applauds this dangerous, xenophobic rhetoric, and if nobody holds them accountable, it will only continue ominous. MMA is most likely the single most diverse sport on the face of the planet. And I've said this multiple times in videos. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't even matter your gender at this point. And I'm only talking about the two real ones, by the way. I'm not talking about all the other bullshit ones. Male or female. You can be whatever. There's fighters from literally everywhere. Oh, the other organizations have diversity, do they? Oh, do they? What's the fucking percentage of black men in the NBA? Or the NFL, for that matter? And by the way, I don't care. They're the best at it. They're taller, they're better, they're whatever, more athletic. But there's no diversity. Like, why are we kidding ourselves? Or what? Even like fucking the MLB, tons of like Dominican dudes and shit. I mean, even they're pretty mixed, to be honest with you. Nowhere is as mixed as the UFC. We've got fighters from almost every fucking country. Okay? And again, it doesn't matter what you are. People will like you if you can fight, and that is what it is. And for them to act as though we have a race problem in the UFC, in our sport, is absolute fucking bullshit and should be able to be sued for defamation because it's a fucking false statement of fact. We don't have a race problem, right? Look at how many black champions there are right now. And again, not a fucking problem. Okay? It's cool. I don't care. Whoever's the best fighter should get that fucking belt. And then it's so gross, man. And then I screenshotted the bloody elbows one, which might have been the worst one. Colby Covington spews blatant racist insults during spat with UFC champ Kamaru Usman. Like, bro, enough. It's so fucking gross. But what I want to talk about, and I just wanted to preface that, or whatever, dude. That was all for context. Colby Covington is not racist. Okay, Themba Gorimbo, his training partner, Colby Covington, has been bringing him food to eat at MMA Masters because he was struggling financially. And before one of you cunts go in my comment section and say that he's literally making the I have a black friend argument, okay, first of all, that's a good argument. And you're going to laugh at that and you're going to call me racist because I think that that's a good argument. But I'll tell you what, if you think that an extremely racist individual, and we're talking about the individual, this is why it's a good argument. If you think that a racist individual would have a fucking black friend, then you are retarded, okay? You are lacking, no, you have extra chromosomes, but you are lacking brain activity, sir, because we're not talking about systemic racism when we're addressing an individual. So Colby Covington, who is an individual man, okay, who has been called racist by multiple MMA media outlets, multiple fans hate him, right? And to be fair, I'm pretty fucking annoyed with him right now too. I don't like the inactivity, but it is what it is. We're not talking about that. We're talking about him as an individual, right? He can't, if he was racist, he would not be doing this for his extremely black training partner. He just wouldn't. That's not something that a racist person would do. It's just not. I don't understand how that argument just gets scoffed at, right? Like, if you were racist or a bigot who they try to pair it with the BLM shit, right? Do you think Themba Gorimbo, an extremely hardworking immigrant from Zimbabwe agrees with like all that communist bullshit. I highly doubt it, man. Actually, to be a lot of the African immigrants don't. They don't agree with the shit that the African Americans try to stand for. Do you like? And do you think if you were to ask that man if he was racist, imagine an MMA media reporter asking Themba Gorimbo if they thought Colby Covington was racist. What do you think they would say? What do you think he would say? No, he brings me food because I was fucking poor and my family stopped talking to me. A racist man isn't doing that. That is a good argument, and that's fact. Because if he hated black people, he wouldn't give a fuck if his training partner was starving. In fact, he would probably want him to starve so that he would continue to lose and then maybe quit and go get a job somewhere else. So I fucking wish that the media would post this story, because I find it gross that they wouldn't, and I find it gross because the only reason they won't post it is because they have all called Colby Covington racist in the past, and they probably get positive feedback for the most part from their retarded woke audience. And if they were to post something positive about Colby Covington that had anything to do with race, or that it could be spun with a racial twist in any which way, shape, or form, they would most likely anger their audience, and it's just not worth it for them, I guess. But they're dishonest and just disingenuous, Jesus Christ, and it's fucking bullshit, dude. And I'm sick of it. And shout out to MMA Orbit for posting this tweet, and shout out to MMA Uncensored for fucking reposting it, because again, none of the other major ones that I could find did. And I find it to be, because again, like I said this earlier on, this is a good feel-good story, man. And there's not a whole lot going on this week. Even if they didn't want to report on it as a feel-good story, they could have probably still spun some racial bullshit fucking white savior spin on it if they wanted to. But I think that they would come off as extremely disingenuous then. Anyways, man. That's it. That's my thoughts on this video, or on this topic. But I just wanted to talk about it because I find it gross. And I don't think that a lot of people talk about how gross the MMA media is. And that's why I love MMA YouTube so much. When you get guys who, even if I don't agree with them on everything, cover shit much better. And much more honestly and than the MMA media does. So anyways, man, like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video, and bye-bye.